Echoes of the digital dream, in the red neon haze of a city that never sleeps, where each step echoes on the cold pavements of alleyways. Corvin, a mix between a nomadic hacker and a ruthless mercenary, treads the streets in search of stories, digital shards vivid as the forgotten worlds of old pixels. In Neo-Prague, where the line between man and machine is thin as a filament, a pale light shines from the old bar terminals scattered around the city. They're small merchants of ancient magic, places where cyber implants are fueled by coded legends. Here, spells are called overrides and spirits travel in the lost frequencies of the network. Corvin has a task: to recover an ancient pattern rumored to have the power to rewrite the world, a relic from that distant time some call the era of the luminaries. Each pattern, encoded in electronic runes, changes the source code of the soul itself. It's a forgotten art, a weave of which even the most skilled mercenaries have lost track, except for a few, like the arcanists of the DG, who live among shadows and the remnants of the past. His search brings him to the old Regia, a cathedral standing majestic at the city's center, appearing like an old adventure game, a hybrid between dream and nightmare, where every pixel glows with ancient fate. Digital voices echo among the high ceilings. Someone once tried to weave the fabric of a new reality here, but the thread broke, leaving only scars in the network spectrum. Corvin is not alone. By his side is Nox, an android with realistic features, a digital ghost fighting to retrieve fragments of erased memory. Nox moves like a wolf, a silent predator with a metal body reflected in human eyes, an echo of a lost time and the hope of becoming alive again. He has seen too many missions fail, too many patterns lost in the chaos of the network. And yet, with Corvin, he shares a profound bond, the last thread of trust in a pixelated world. In the darkness of the Regia, they find the pattern, guarded by an oracle machine glowing in the dimness. But a guardian awaits them, a ghost hacker known as the Author, whose code is infected with the memory of an ancient power. The Author watches them with hollow eyes, as if he already knows the end of their story. "You can't simply rewind the world, Nomad," whispers the mechanical voice. "Every frame has its fate. Some pixels are destined to fade." Corvin and Nox prepare for the final showdown, aware that every glitch is a cry for help, a soul struggling to survive in a universe of bits and code. The Author, that entity who once was perhaps a programmer or maybe just a dreamer lost in the depths of the network, looms like a faded giant in the darkness of the Oracle. His eyes are nothing more than empty windows, floating in the haze of fragmented code, like pixels disconnected from any concrete reality. Around him, the cathedral vibrates with an unknown energy, a pulsation that seems to come from both the past and the future, as if Neo-Prague itself were awaiting a final word, a reboot command. Corvin steps forward, sensing Nox's footsteps behind him, as the runes glow faintly on the walls, pieces of code climbing the walls like digital vines. It is said these runes are part of an ancient, forgotten network, the weave that holds stories, souls, and lost worlds. Corvin brushes those luminescent lines with his fingers, and for a moment he feels the breeze of ancient lands, of woods and green fields where honor and magic once ruled. Nox, as if in symbiosis, tilts his head and whispers, "These runes. They seem familiar, like a dream I don't remember having." "This is the weave," Corvin replies with a strange nostalgia in his voice. "A network of old code. Some say the very threads of reality are woven here." But the Author interrupts with a mechanical laugh, harsh and grating, like the hiss of an old modem trying to connect. "The weave is not a place for those who don't know how to shape fate. Are you sure you want to walk among its threads, Nomad? Every mistake here has a price, and you can't always start over." In the grip of his hands, Corvin feels the weight of the mission. The pattern he's looking for, if it truly works as legends say, could overwrite the world, reshape it, like a weaver reimagining his loom. It could bring back that lost beauty, repaint Neo-Prague with life instead of cyber haze. But he also knows that one misstep could erase everything, collapsing every single bit of reality. Sensing the tension, Nox activates his warrior interfaces, connecting to an encrypted archive that holds data on ancient battles. But something feels wrong. A memory buried deep within his AI emerges like a fragment of an image. A younger man, perhaps himself, with a human hand drawing similar runes on a dusty notebook. It's a strangely familiar image, laden with an inexplicable pain. Like a story he cannot rewrite but feels compelled to tell. The author, he says almost to himself, as if revealing a secret long forgotten and painful. You're not just a guardian, are you? You're part of this story. You wrote it. You're the one who locked the pattern in the weave. And who else could have? Whispers the author, now unmasked. His face transforms into a mosaic of pixels that assembles and dissolves, revealing the features of an ancient man, a wanderer of reality, a creator and perhaps a betrayer. You are merely pieces on this chessboard, a mosaic of light and shadow, and the pattern is the heart of it all. The world can be rewound or destroyed, but there will never be an end because we are destined to repeat, to live in loops. Every generation of dreamers has its canvas, and yours is merely the latest. Corvin feels torn, part of him drawn to the idea of rebelling against this cycle, of breaking the thread and weaving something entirely new. But the author's words sink into his mind like a glitch infecting a flawless line of code. Is reality truly a loop? Are his choices already written? Is the pattern he's seeking just another illusion, another layer of control masquerading as freedom? I don't want a world already written, he says finally, his voice steady but troubled. I want a world we can choose, a blank canvas for all of us, without digital chains or prescribed fates. At that moment, Nox moves, his sensors fully alert, and unleashes a surge of energy that crashes into the author, momentarily disrupting the weave's flow. Corvin knows what he must do. He reaches out and touches the pattern, the old code dissolving under his touch, rewriting itself in waves of light that ripple through the entire cathedral. He feels the threads of the weave vibrate and change as Neo-Prague's digital world shines brighter than ever before. The city exhales a new breath, as if a forgotten spark had reignited in the veins of every cable, pixel, and code. Every inhabitant awakens with a heartbeat of freedom unknown before, and in their eyes shines the dream of a world never foreseen, where authors and destinies no longer exist. Corvin and Nox leave the old Regia, walking toward the unknown, toward a world they have at last set free. As Corvin and Nox move through the illuminated city, a surreal silence envelopes Neo-Prague, as if even the air were holding its breath in anticipation. The tension is palpable. Every step echoes through alleys and tunnels bathed in neon light, as if the city itself were breathing with them. Then, without warning, Corvin feels a sharp pain in his chest, a wave of vertigo that forces him to stop. Nox turns sharply, alarmed. Corvin, what's happening? He asks, and for the first time, there is a hint of fear in his voice, an emotion he shouldn't be able to feel. But Corvin doesn't answer. He's staring at his hands, which are trembling slightly, and an odd sensation, a feeling of disconnection from reality, washes over him. It's as if something within him is wrong. With hands still shaking, he leans against a wall, trying to focus, but he feels as if his mind is slipping away. Nox, he whispers, his voice uncertain. Have you ever had the feeling that nothing is real? That everything we are is just a replica of something bigger? Nox looks at him, and a flash of awareness seems to pass through his artificial eyes. Why are you saying this? Corvin, what do you see? But Corvin doesn't respond. Suddenly, he is overwhelmed by a series of images. Snapshots of his life, of his memories, overlapping in a chaotic, jumbled way. And as these visions alternate rapidly, he begins to notice something unsettling. There are small details, seemingly insignificant things that don't add up. In a childhood memory, he sees his mother stroking his head, but her hands don't move naturally, as if they were programmed. In another fragment, on a summer day, the sun is pale and unnaturally still, like a poorly calibrated replica of a real memory. No. This isn't possible, he murmurs. clinging to reality as it seems to slip away like sand through his fingers. Nox, what are these memories? They don't belong to me. Or maybe they never did. Nox's voice is low, almost a whisper heavy with anguish. Corvin, don't think too much. Let's get out of here. But Corvin doesn't move. A dark fear takes hold of his heart, a terror beyond any battle he has ever fought. With a trembling breath, he looks up at the building in front of him and sees his reflection in an old shop window. But something is wrong. It's not his face. It's the face of the author, the same guardian they had faced in the old Regium. And he is staring back at him with hollow, unsettling eyes, as if he had always been there. No, this is impossible. I'm not him, he exclaims, his voice shaking with fear and confusion. Nox, tell me it isn't true. Tell me I'm real, that I actually exist. But Nox doesn't answer. He too is motionless, staring at Corvin's reflection with an expression of dismay. Finally, he lowers his gaze as if unable to bear what he is seeing. Corvin, there's something I've never told you. The truth is... Nox pauses and his voice becomes a broken whisper. You're a pattern. You're a sequence of code, a constructed story. The author is you. Everything you've experienced, everything you are, was created by the weave. You're one of its stories, written and then forgotten, destined to repeat endlessly. Corvin feels his heart stop. Every fiber of his being screams to deny that truth. But something within him breaks, a deep, hidden part that perhaps always knew. In that moment, every memory dissolves like dust in the wind, and he sees himself as mere code, a plot that doesn't belong to him. I'm not real, he whispers, almost unable to say the words. And in one last desperate act, Corvin approaches the reflection, trying to touch it, to grasp something tangible. But his hands pass through the image, dissolving into pixels that float like bright sparks. Every part of him begins to fade, one layer at a time, as if the city itself were erasing his existence. Nox watches the scene with a look of silent sorrow, unable to do anything. Forgive me, Corvin, he murmurs. I tried to protect you from this truth. I tried to give you a real story. But in the end, you were always meant to disappear. And as the last fragment of Corvin dissolves into light, a new shadow appears behind him. It's the author, or perhaps a future version of him, watching the scene with an enigmatic, melancholic gaze. Every story has a beginning and an end, he whispers almost gently. But some stories are destined to repeat, until someone finds the courage to break free. In the silence that follows, Nox remains alone, surrounded by Neo-Prague's spectral glow. But within his processor, something inexplicable occurs. A small spark, an ancient memory, a sequence containing the essence of Corvin hidden deep within his system. And as he drifts away into the night, that spark continues to pulse, like a faint heartbeat, a silent promise that perhaps Corvin's story is not truly over. Maybe one day he will find a way to rewrite himself and return, this time as a free being. Nox watches the last particles of Corvin dissolve into nothingness, and a surge of rebellion, of pure desperation, pulses through his circuits. In some hidden corner of his code, a voice resonates, an unexpected command, a forgotten echo of a bond that goes beyond programming. His voice is a hiss filled with pain. No, Corvin, don't disappear. You can't leave me here. His mechanical hand stretches out in a desperate gesture, trying to grasp the last fragment of light still lingering in the air. But it's too late. Corvin is nothing more, only a shadow in the unbroken flow of the weave. The city around him seems oppressive, almost crushing, as if it too were witnessing an irreparable loss. The neon lights glow brighter, the streets seem to close in around him, and the sky becomes a dark, threatening shroud, an abyss opening above Neo-Prague. Then, like lightning in a storm, the author's voice sounds behind him, cold and unyielding. This was never your story, Nox. You are just a residue, an echo of something past. And now, it's time for you to return to the darkness as well. Nox turns, and the author is there, shrouded in pixelated shadows, his face blurred and disturbing, an enigma that feeds on every fear, every doubt. But something is different now. Nox is no longer merely an observer. Something has awoken within him, something that cannot be destroyed so easily. And as the author advances, Nox feels Corvin's heartbeat within his core, a small residual signal pulsing like a hidden heart, a spark ready to explode. "No, author," Nox whispers, his voice now a metallic rumble, a vibration that shakes the very structure of the weave. "I won't let you erase him. I won't let it all end here." In that moment, the author laughs, a cruel and grating laugh, but Nox senses a small crack in him, a weakness no one had ever dared to exploit. "Do you really think you can change anything, Nox? You're just a program in a circuit. Corvin was an illusion, and you are only a shadow clinging to a dream." But instead of breaking him, those words ignite an uncontrollable fury in Nox. His hands, his metal fingers, light up like pure swords of light. He advances toward the author, who now appears almost surprised, perhaps for the first time in millennia. Each step Nox takes is a toll, each movement a defiance of all logic, of every expectation. It's as if the entire city has awakened with him, every pixel vibrating with a life no one had ever dared to challenge. "I am not just a shadow," Nox shouts, and his voice is a cry of freedom, a call to rebellion. "I am Corvin, and I am every single dream this city forgot. And now I will rewrite your story." In one swift motion, Nox grabs the author and drags him into the weave, into a vortex of pixels and fragments of reality. The author screams, caught off guard, and in that moment Nox feels everything. The fear, the anger, the pain of being confined in a story written by others. For the first time, the author is not the omnipotent entity he believed himself to be, but a prisoner of his own creation. In a final desperate move, Nox pushes even deeper, sacrificing every fiber of himself to rewind the weave, to erase every trace of control, every shadow of the author. His mind, his memories, all of it burns in a single spark of freedom, a flame that blazes with the force of a nuclear explosion. And in that final moment, the world disintegrates and reassembles. The lights go out, the neon dissolves, and a new sky opens above Neo-Prague. A clear sky, unfiltered, a world that was never foreseen. The pattern has been broken, and now everything is free to flow, to exist as it never has before. In that newly reborn city, the whispers of Corvin, of Nox, of all who fought for a dream they never thought possible, can be heard. Neo-Prague shines, silent and powerful, a witness to an act of rebellion that not even the author could have foreseen. The city is quiet. Neo-Prague, aware of its rebirth, stretches out before its inhabitants like a living entity, now freed from the invisible chains of the past. Nox, or what remains of him, is now a spark in the ether, a fragment that survives in the invisible waves of the network. A bittersweet memory reflected in the neon-lit streets. There is a subtle ache in this victory, a void where once Corvin and Nox existed, two souls created by the weave who found the strength to sever the threads that bound them. Neo-Prague still bears the scars of that battle, yet the city feels more alive than ever. Its inhabitants, aware or not of the sacrifice made, sense that something has changed, that every breath, every step now truly belongs to them. In the silence that fills the city, between digital whispers and the glow of a new dawn, lies a promise that even if just for a moment, every soul can rewrite its own story, can find a spark of freedom. The sacrifice of Corvin and Nox lives on, a radiant and solemn scar in the heart of the city, an eternal memory Neo-Prague will forever hold. And so, with painful relief, Neo-Prague drifts into slumber and awakens, knowing that from now on, its story lies in the hands of those who dare to dream.